Hey everybody, welcome
Look at
to the Front Range Hockey Podcast live from Station 26 here in the Northeast Park Hill neighborhood. I'm CC Hockley, this is Scott McDonald, and we're doing this. I actually just met him in person
Yeah.
for the
Believe it
first
or not,
time.
we've been doing this for about a year now.
Yeah, we've been doing this.
It's the first time we ever met in person. And
Correct.
Embraced each other, and it was beautiful. And
Yeah, it was very beautiful.
now we're here enjoying a craft brew and
Yes. He's got
hockey.
He's got the juicy banger. I've got the tangerine cream. This is one of my favorite beers ever. Nothing can beat it when it's on tap. I tell you what. But yeah, we're from Station 26, or we're at Station 26, and we're coming to you live together here on Front Range Hockey, and hopefully you guys can hear us pretty well. Loud environment, but I mean it's vibing. It's vibing. It's good stuff.
It's a good place to grab a beer. And yeah, again, like this is new to us. You know, we're hoping this becomes a regular occurrence and a potential partnership opportunity. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of beta testing this thing, so we'll see how the audio is. We'll have to kind of figure that out. This is our first time, but we're excited to be here nonetheless. And you know, we'll hopefully you guys can hear us, I guess.
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, this is episode number 31 of the Front Range Hockey Podcast, and I'm drawing a blank as to what Avalanche numbers are 31 this time around.
Philip was Grubauer.
Philip Grubauer, hello.
Who was just in town.
He was just
We'll
in
talk
town.
about that, but
Thank you. Catching me as I...
yeah. I mean, 31's a goalie number, so I'm sure there's other goalies too. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Apologies
absolutely.
for blanking on that, but
Yeah, sorry. I've already had a tangerine cream.
already
and,
drunk.
and Scott, yeah, well, I'm not
It's
drunk.
getting there.
I'm not drunk. Come on.
Feeling good.
It's feeling good for sure. So, anyway, let's get started. First things first. Utah Grizzlies defenseman, part-time Eagles defenseman, Charles Edouard Dastow. So he won Utah their game on Wednesday night with 1.7 seconds left in regulation. That was in Idaho, in Boise, Idaho, against the Idaho Steelheads. Ben Tardif zipped it past Dastow just below the blue line to the bottom of the right wing faceoff circle, snapped a shot past Idaho netminder Jake Kupski, gave the Grizzlies a 2-1 victory, negated an Idaho loser point or an Idaho point or two in overtime or the shootout. And yeah, Utah currently sits atop the Mountain Division standings. Sorry. Excuse me. I'm trying to look at Scott and the camera and the
This is
outline.
very weird. Like I want to look him in the eye, but we have to talk directly into this mic.
We
So again,
do.
the background noise is,
Yes. So
is special. But
yes. So Scott, you're getting a question from Zersuki. Are you growing a Riker? You got a little flow back here going on?
I do, yeah. Again, you're gonna get a different angle from me this
It's
time.
true.
but,
It's
yeah,
true.
I haven't grown it out. It's about time to get it cut. We'll see what happens, but it's not a mullet, I wouldn't say.
No,
But-
he's got some curls back there.
Yeah,
but
when you tuck it behind your hat, it does kind of look like a mullet. But,
it does. It's
yeah,
true.
We'll
But
see. Maybe I will continue growing it out.
But hey, yeah, the Grizzlies are number one in the Mountain Division in the ECHL, ahead of Idaho's 37 points. Utah has 42 points. And the reason I bring all that up is because Dastow was actually named a All-Star today, 2022 All-Star down in Jacksonville, Florida. So the man leads the ECHL in all defensemen with 13 goals, 4 of those being power play goals. And that also leads the ECHL in defensemen. And he actually leads all defensemen and Grizzlies skaters with 27 points. Let's double that. Well, not double, a little less than double. Yeah, I looked at a different statistic there. But, yeah, again, this is a new setup, a little different.
Exactly.
But also leads Utah with 3 game-winning goals, including that one on Wednesday night that we talked about. So first things first, congratulations to Charles Edouard Dastow on the game-winning goal and his All-Star nomination. Got to get my words there. Yes. So that's the first things first. Let's go to the Avalanche news. And Scott, we've had a few Avalanche games, 4 games since our last episode. And I'll run those down real quick so I can shut up and let Scott talk a little bit here. Because he was at the Seattle game. So Thursday, January 6th, Colorado 7, Winnipeg 1. Just completely shellacked the Jets. Top line of Landy, McKinnon, and Rance combined for 12 points. And, of course, Gabriel Landeskog with the hat trick. Let's go to Saturday, January 8th. Colorado 5, Toronto. I'm going to the AHL now, apparently. Excuse me. Or at least their province. Colorado 5, Toronto, Ontario 4. In overtime, Avs fell down 4-1 at one point, pushing back through the second and third periods. Devon Taves, the savior, with the goal in overtime. Game winner at minute and 12 seconds into the extra frame. And let's go to Monday, January 10th. Colorado 4, Seattle 3. Again, Scott was at that game. As we're down 3-1 in the second, tell ya, Ave Cubell scoring twice in that one. Kadri nets the game-winning goal in the third period. And the last game, of course, we'll have plenty to talk about with this one. Tuesday, January 11th, Nashville 5, Colorado 4 in overtime. Thanks a lot, Matt Duchesne. Nashville went up 2-0. The Avs came back again. They are the comeback kids. This episode is Cardiac Colorado comeback. Cardiac comeback kids. There we go. Man.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot there.
Avs came back again. Duchesne with not one but two power play goals on the night. Cale Makar with the game-tying goal late in the third period. But, oh, my goodness. That was a lot of action in 7 days.
Yes.
And a lot of coming back from deficits, big deficits.
Yeah. Well, it's never a good thing when that's the case. You never want to be coming back from any sort of deficit. They keep things interesting. You can't deny that, and that's great. But it does kind of show some flaws in the execution, I guess, when you are having to come back every single time. But I'll talk about the game that I watched the closest. That was the Seattle Kraken, their first visit to Denver. Philip Grubauer's ultimate return, and same with Jonas Donskoy too. They got a great touching tribute there. Lasted a couple minutes, standing ovation. They all kind of bowed and waved, and it was nice. And they almost got the last laugh. Grubauer made 31 saves during that game, and 31 for 31. And Avs go up. That seems to be the case. They always score that first goal, and then went down 3-1 immediately. Building got a little deflated, a little quiet, but as they do, they mounted a comeback. And Nazem Kadri, keeping the streak alive. He's done phenomenal this season, and ultimately pulled out that win. And the Seattle's winless in Denver for at least now. But great game. Again, a lot of coming back these past couple weeks, which it isn't good. But the Nashville game too, with Matt Duchesne having kind of his last lap, I guess. It seems to always happen against your former team, but ultimately lost that game too. And Nashville stays ahead in the standing. That was kind of a big game to earn a point or two back, and they ended up splitting it with them, which is okay. The Avs have plenty of games in hand at the moment. I think they've only played 33 to Nashville's 37 or something along those lines. So it was a good opportunity blown. And I think the biggest storyline from these last week is Landeskog going down with COVID and missing him the past couple of games, and then obviously the news that was kind of broken today. We're all shocked. Yesterday morning when the Avs announced that Bo Byram was not going to play for personal reasons, and he struggled. He missed almost a month with the concussion issues, and we all kind of assumed that was the personal reason why he was leaving. And my colleague Adrian Dater kind of broke that news, got in touch with his parents, and say what you will about that, but the parents kind of divulged that information, and I would say it's kind of private, but it is unfortunate that our suspicions were confirmed. That's the concussion issues. He's so young, he's so talented, and he's the future of the Avs, blue line, him and Cale Makar, and the rest of them really. But was kind of having a breakout season after missing much of it with the concussion, thanks to that Keegan Colasar hit last season, and it seems he's still dealing with those issues. And sounds like he had kind of an emotional conversation with his parents that morning. He said he just woke up, wasn't feeling good, called his parents, and was like, I can't do this. I think long term this is not good for me, and I need to figure this out and get to the bottom of it. And I think that's a very mature, very smart thing, because we've seen what's happened to Matt Calvert in the past, and Shane Bowers is dealing with those issues currently as well, and it just really sucks. Calvert he dealt with it throughout his career, but he was towards the tail end of his career when it really became an issue. And to have a kid who is a top 5 draft pick a few years ago and is the future of this blue line, and we're talking big money for him in the future, and big contracts, and again being that number 1 teammate, number 1 and 2 with Cale Makar for the future on the Avalanche blue line. But you just really hope this isn't a long-term thing. But post-concussion syndrome is no joke. Anyone that's had it or is dealing with it currently will tell you that it almost never gets better. It feels that way, and all it takes is getting just tapped in the head one more time, and that's pretty much your career. And the kid is 20, 19, 20, 21, something like that. So the fact that he has to deal with this just really sucks. And again, I think it's a mature and smart decision for him to to take a step back, try to figure that out, meet with doctors, whatever's necessary, give your head a break, even if it means taking the season off. That's again, it's gonna suck because the kid, he wants to do this for a living. It's his passion, it's his dream, and I think if you have to take the season off to figure this thing out, then that's what you have to do. But I think he's making the right decision by stepping back for personal reasons. And that's, to me, the biggest storyline of the past week. The Avs are doing great, but obviously I think we're all a little bit concerned about some of the health issues, especially with the Avs future of the blue line.
Right. Well, and to your point, take as much time off as you need. Sidney Crosby was out for over a calendar year.
Yeah.
And he didn't play because of concussion issues.
Right.
He came back, and the Penguins are, they're not in terrible shape. Malkin's just coming back from an injury against Anaheim last night and everything. But Crosby is one of the premier players in the NHL, and if he's taking time to help, nurse his health back, then I think that's kind of the precedent. I think that's kind of the bar, and it's a good thing. It's a good bar to set when your star player, realizes, hey, this could impact my career. And now Bo Byram is nipping it in the bud, as it were. He's a little bit younger than Crosby was when he was dealing with his concussion things. But yeah, if you're dealing with an injury, you need time to heal. And
it's important to kind of have that spokesperson. You touched on a good point. I'm glad you brought it up. It's you got to. It's important to have that spokesperson. This guy is arguably the number one player in the NHL for the last couple decades.
Right.
Since he's been in the league, the guy's a legend, first ballot Hall of Famer. Whenever won his cups, it's Sidney Crosby, right? We're talking about this generation's Wayne Gretzky. So the fact that you have a spokesperson in that's it's okay to take time off, take care of yourself, deal with these issues because it's very serious. This kind of started with the National Football League, the NFL, who really started making a big deal with the post-concussion syndrome and the CTE and all those kinds of things. Say what you want about the NHL. I'm very split on what the NHL does with it. I think it's a joke how they've been handling a lot of these head hits and the fact that they aren't raising more awareness, I guess, for these issues, or doing more to help the players. I know they've hired doctors that are on staff for every team, and they got eyes in the sky watching guys that are acting weird and just looking for concussion syndrome or any sort of concussion issues. That's great, but I think long term there needs to be a better strategy for that. I think the NFL's adopted one. It's worked out well for them. The NHL kind of needs to step up because it is, it was a big issue in the NFL. Right, these guys are taking huge hits to the head every single game, every single play. In the NHL, it doesn't happen every game, thankfully, but every once in a while you do get a bad hit, and it's something you don't want to talk about, but it's something that needs to be talked about. And I think this next generation of players needs to take it a little more seriously, and it starts with the NHL. But I'm glad Sidney Crosby has kind of stepped up and been a pseudo spokesperson, I guess, so to speak. With regards to that, just letting guys know it's okay to kind of take a step back, and I'm glad Bo, at 20 years old, I think he is, it already is cognizant of that, and knows he's not feeling right, not feeling good, and the long-term effects are a little more important than playing for your team. The Avalanche will be just fine without him. They've proven they can be just fine without him. In the future they want him on the blue line, but I know for a fact the Avalanche have done everything to reach out to his family and help him out. They understand this decision that he's making, by taking a personal leave. But I would assume this is it's a long-term thing. It's not just going to be 1 or 2 games that he's going to miss. He just missed a month. Came back for 4 or 5 games there, and now is taking a step back again. Just isn't feeling right. And I really wouldn't be shocked if he took the rest of the season off. And I think that's probably for the best that he does that. Again, take a calendar year. Get your stuff figured out. Go see the professionals. The Avalanche will pay for that bill, and that's a good opportunity. And for now, I hear he's going to stay around the team. He's staying in Denver. He's going to see specialists here and then travel whenever he needs to go find the right specialists, Crosby's guys, and maybe go home if he needs to. But for now, the Avalanche are fully supporting him, and they're going to respect his space and all the time that he needs to take off. If he needs to sit out the rest of the season, which I strongly advise that he does, then so be it. But it's unfortunate because the kid is a very, very nice kid, and obviously his talent speaks for itself. And again, this is a long-term thing. We'd love to have him for this season, but we'd also love to have him for the next 15 seasons.
Sure.
And,
yep.
If that means sitting out this one for the next 14, 15 years that we get to see him play, then so be it.
Yeah. And to kind of shift the topic back from Byram and the news that kind of broke today to the Nashville game last night. Let's talk about the controversial call in overtime from the referees that there was too many men on the ice. And I mentioned that Matt Duchene had 2 power play goals. One of those was the game-winning goal in overtime, and it was because of that too many men penalty. Nashville got to go up 4-on-3, and thus they scored the game-winning goal in overtime. And it has been hashed and rehashed on Twitter. I mean, it's crazy how much Twitter has, just ruminated on this today because, there was a line change that occurred between, Rantanen and McKinnon, and there was about a 5 feet difference between those guys, and it was like a freeze frame from one of the cameras that, was on the plexiglass, and it was just, it's kind of crazy. It's just crazy how, like, it was a bit ticky-tack in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be consistent, you'd call that, every time, which would be, I think as, I can't remember if it was Mosier or somebody else that said it on Twitter, but they said, if you call that every time, you're going to call it 74 times a game.
Right.
Just with how bing bang it was in regards to, not bing bong, don't confuse it with bing bong, but how bing bang it was, how quick it was when the Avalanche did that line change between the two in overtime. And it's kind of a thing in overtime that the referees swallow their whistles normally. So it's a bit like.
And how late that hand went up after the, I'm sure there was yelling on the bench from, Nashville.
There was all three Nashville skaters, held their hand up and they're like,
waving the sticks. And it's just one of those things like deer caught in the headlights for the referees. Or it's like, oh shit, like I missed something, like may as well get that hand up.
Right.
But, that's another thing with the NHL. Like a theme I've noticed over the past couple seasons, and this season more in particular, has been the wishy-washy calls, the inconsistency in, suspensions,
right.
Which, Avalanche fans, I know I don't have to rehash any of that. Just, basically every suspension, whether it's, a bias there or not, there does seem to be a lot of calls going not in favor of the Avalanche and, things like that. And we won't get too much into that, but, between the head issues we were just talking about and, the officials, the issues they've kind of had, and the Department of Player Safety, it just kind of is an up and down thing. And, we can even talk about the Olympics and the World Juniors and what the NHL, how they handled that whole situation. It's, I don't know if there needs to be like a leadership change for the NHL, but it has been rough. And again, like we'll go back to the officials. It's been a strange season. It seems I don't know if there's need to be some retraining for the officials or whatnot, but these are game-defining calls that they're making. And like you said, they tend to swallow their whistle in the playoffs, or in the playoffs, yes, but
in overtime
too, as well. Anytime it's kind of a 50-50 game, and they want to, the refs need to stay out of it, I think. And it doesn't matter if the coach or the bench or the guys on the ice are waving their sticks and like asking for a penalty. If you didn't see it, don't call it. And that's kind of seen what the issue was, which ended up resulting in a goal and a loss for the Avalanche. And it's happened a few times this season, and it's borderline embarrassing at best for the NHL. And you hope they kind of, I don't know how to fix that. I have no idea. If it needs retraining, but they really need to log on to Twitter and see what the fans and people are saying day to day about the officiating and about the NHL, and take notes, look in the mirror about things that are going on, send out memos to whoever you need to send out memos to, and figure it out. But it does suck. And again, I know we always think it's just the Avalanche that this happens to, but it's not always the case. But again, just one of those times. It's probably happened 3, 4, 5 times this season alone that the Avalanche have lost a game because of poor officiating or just a bad call just in general. And it's the same for every team around the NHL. It's not just the Avalanche, but it happened again last night. It's unfortunate.
It is. And, to play devil's advocate a little bit here, there is that human element in officiating. Like, there is going to be that human element. There is going to be that propensity to get calls wrong sometimes. And when you do that in overtime, there's not a whole lot of time to do a makeup call, as you see in, like, the NFL or the NHL or the NBA. There's no time to have a makeup call like that. So it's just... It's kind of a catch-22 because you want to be able to get it right, but you also have, this limited perspective. Now, granted, the officials are on the ice; they're really close to the action. But the fact that you've got a bird's eye view with the cameras and the Altitude broadcast or the SPN Plus broadcast or wherever you're watching it from, it's different viewpoints, and of course, you defer it to the guys in Toronto sometimes, and sometimes they get it right. Most of the time, they get it right and overturn stuff, and most of the time, well, not most of the time, but sometimes they get it wrong.
Right.
So it's to play devil's advocate, it's like those refs have probably one of the most difficult
jobs. It's a fast-moving game. Like I was just about to say, like you feel like this only happens in the NHL. You hear about these issues, like maybe there's a game or two, like a week in the NFL, where it's like, wow, that's a really bad call, but they got plenty of replay angles, and they have the opportunity to overturn those calls, and the NHL just doesn't seem like there's a chance to do that. It seems like it happens more in the NHL than it does across any other league, and that's that sucks. But at the same time, like it is such a fast-paced game, and it's so hard to. You do have to speak to the human element side of it. It's like I don't want to bash the officials, the referee, or whoever was on the ice yesterday, when this happened. But they're humans too at the end of the day, and it's easy to shake your fist at them and think this is the end of the world, but it's not that big of a deal, I guess, in the long run. And the Avalanche is still in a great position to wrap a bow on our Avalanche coverage. They lost a point, yes, to Nashville, and it was what we call a 3-point game, but they have 4 games in hand on them, and I think they're only 4 points behind them. And the Avalanche are having a hell of a season, without some of their top performing guys, without Landeskog, Bo Byram. Hopefully he's all right, but the Avalanche have dealt with their COVID issues this season, and injury issues obviously that are recurring, and they're managing, and that's really all you can ask for during the regular season. And it speaks to the character of the team, and hopefully that translates to the playoff success as well.
Yeah, and the Avs again second in the Central Division standings, like you mentioned a few times, behind Nashville. Their upcoming games are going to be a home and home against the Arizona Coyotes. I almost said Phoenix.
It's been a while since they've been called that.
It has been a while. So, but man, we talked about it on the Calder Farmstead about how the Coyotes might move and they don't have a home, and they're trying to get this billion-dollar facility built in Tempe. And if they don't get that, then it might be dire straits for them in the state of Arizona. Yeah. But yeah, they've got the Coyotes on Friday, January 14th at Ball Arena. Then they head to the desert to play the Coyotes again on Saturday, January 15th, before heading back to Denver Monday, January 17th, to face the Minnesota Wild. Probably one of their biggest rivals in the Central Division.
Minnesota's having a hell of a season too. So those are all big Central Division games, no matter who you're playing. If it's the bottom of the barrel team, or it's Nashville who's ahead of the standings, or Minnesota who's right there with the Avalanche as well. Then these are big games. Again, like I said, what we call 3-point games. You got to win them, no matter what. And that's really ultimately, what defines your success is how many wins you have against your own division, where you place against your division. So
exactly,
big games coming up here. So Central Division swing.
Let's talk Colorado Eagles. And Scott, as I mentioned last episode, the Eagles have split 7 of their last 9 2-game sets.
Yep.
Like within the past, like if you have a weekend set, or you have 2 games within like 3 days. The Eagles have split 7 of their last 9, and I compared them to kind of the comedy and tragedy masks that you see like in the drama club in high school. So they needed to string together some wins, and one of the points I pointed out on the Calder Farmstead with Sean was Onanen needs to get some confidence.
Yes.
He's kind of a middle-of-the-road goaltender right now, and back and forth with that. Last time he won his last 3 starts was in November, and so what happened? They won 2 games in a row. They got it done. They got it done against the Tucson Roadrunners. Right. First game was a 3-2 shootout win. Second game, 5-3 victory in regulation. Didn't need to go to overtime for that, obviously. Yeah. It's not a 1-goal deficit. So
right. Simple math,
right.
Yeah.
Onanen gets both starts in that, and I think that was a real boost for his confidence because, especially in that first game, I watched the totality of that first game. I didn't get a chance to really watch all of the second game. We do have personal lives.
Right.
But
every once in a while.
Every once in a while, right. So, but the fact that the Eagles allowed those 2 Tucson goals in the third period, in the first half of the third period, they were down 2-1, and then Jean-Luc Foudy drew all 5 skaters of Tucson to that right wing face-off circle, and then passed the puck to a streaking Dylan Sekura right down the middle to tie the game up. Onanen stops all 3 Tucson Roadrunners in the shootout. Martin Kaut getting that shootout goal, winning the game for the Eagles. Like, I feel like that's the game that the Eagles would normally lose. Like, they have a game where they either they put up 4, 5, or 6 goals against their opponent and win 5-3 or 6-3 or 6-2, 6-1. They just maybe they boat race the opponent, maybe not, but they score in handfuls. Like, they score a good handful of goals.
Yeah.
And then they have a game that's really close, and they normally lose that game, but they won it this past weekend.
Which is good. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. Like, so we'll touch on a couple points there. Like, the confidence thing. I think that's a big deal with the Eagles. A big issue it's been all season for them.
Right.
Is not being able to string together multiple wins, and that goes down to players as well. Whether it's individual point streaks, Martin Cowd or like any of those guys, or Ananin. Like that's. I think he's your future, right? Like you obviously want those guys to perform well. The Eagles, we want them to perform well as well. Yeah, but at the end of the day, what Joe Sakic cares about, what Jared Bednar cares about, what the entire Avalanche organization cares about is those guys getting top minutes and playing confidently and playing well. And it's been a good week for them. And again, just building that confidence is super necessary. And when your top performers, like those guys we just mentioned, are playing well, it generally translates to success for the team as well. And it's good to see they're starting to string together, wins 3 in a row. That's great. That's all it takes is getting that done. And hopefully they keep building on that. It's again your top performing guys. Foodie, like you just mentioned that play, I did see that. And Foodie's a guy that I wrote like a feature on him, talked to him, about probably a year ago now at this point. But he's a guy that I think is a dark horse candidate to make this Avalanche team quicker than people expect him to. And he was a beneficiary of the the whole COVID thing. He's supposed to be playing. Yeah. He's supposed to be playing back in major juniors, but they kind of changed the rules up a little bit with the CHL NHL agreement, and he's playing in the AHL, and he's proven he could do it. At 18 years old, he's playing really, really well. He's got wheels like Nathan McKinnon. We've touched on that.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, I think he's a very exciting guy. Like, not many people people still hyper focus on the Martin Couch and the Shane Bowers, as they should, right? Like, those guys are next up, but a guy that doesn't get enough recognition, and he does play a little immature at times. I've seen a few of his games now, and have spoken with him, and again, he's just 18, but I think his future is super bright. And if he could build that confidence as he's been doing, slowly but surely, I think he's a guy that, at age 19, 20, can make this Avalanche team and, beat out a Martin Kaut. And, we've talked a lot about on that podcast, how we feel about Martin Kaut. And, I think personally, his time it's now or never. He's missed his opportunity quite a few times in training camps. He's been to, 3 or 4 of them now at this point. Hasn't made the team outright. The first couple of years is to be expected, but these last couple of years, just talking to Jared Bednar one-on-one about it, he's like, it is kind of a make or break year for the guy. And, he's gotten call-ups, and he'll only get, he'll play a few minutes and just doesn't perform that well, and, gets sent back down. And Shane Bowers, of course, he's just dealt with injury issues, for the entirety of his career, as a professional, and that's unfortunate. But again, Foodie, we're getting on a tangent, but yes, I just wanted to say Foodie's a guy that I'm watching out on. And but again, the Eagles in general are playing really, really well, and that's it's good to see it. Fun.
I've brought it up a time or two that Foodie's body works faster than his brain. Like, he has that explosiveness of Nate McKinnon. Yes. Like, you can see it. And I know the first time I brought it up, you were kind of taken aback. But the more we watch Nate Foodie.
We could call him that.
We could call him that.
Jean-Luc McKinnon.
Jean-Luc McKinnon, Nate Foodie. The more we watch Jean-Luc Foodie, the more I see that explosiveness, and the more I see kind of that mindset calm down. Like, his brain is starting to catch up to his body. He's got 9 points in his last 10 games, and he didn't play the Iowa series at all. He took that weekend off. But those 9 games, Colorado is 6-3-1 in those 9. Actually, in the past 10 games that he started. But yeah, I said 9 games, but I actually meant 10. I was focusing on the 9 points that he scored in those 10 games. So anyway, but yeah, Jean-Luc Foodie, he's got the vision to be a great playmaker. He is such a good playmaker. And granted, no one can replace TJ Tynan, who's going off in Ontario, by the way.
Right.
He is just thriving in Ontario. The former, the 2021 MVP of the league last season, doing very well in Ontario. Jean-Luc Foodie is no TJ Tynan. Dylan Secure, who I thought was on par for TJ Tynan in regards to a replacement, quote unquote. I mean, he's not really a TJ Tynan either because he can
plays a different game.
He plays a different
Yeah.
game, exactly. But Jean-Luc Foudy is one to watch, and I want to give you the top 3 forward lines now that the Eagles have the guys back from the Avalanche. I want to give you these top 3 forward lines that I noticed. Maltsev, Couch, Sherwood.
Love it.
Bowers, Ronta, Burke. That's another guy, Cal Burke, signed to that Avs deal. Oh my goodness. Magna, Foudy, Secure. Oh my God.
See, that is, those are 3 lines that, I mean, you should be winning every single game.
Right?
You know, like that's, they have, all of those guys have, a good balance between playmakers, physical guys, and like veteran guys as well, which I think is great balance. It's something, Greg Cronin is great at doing. And I've talked to him, in depth about how he constructs his lines, and that's kind of the way he does it, and that's the way you should do it. And all those young guys are learning from one of the veteran guys on that line, and again, they're all skilled, they're all talented, and that should start translating to more and more wins. And I think we're starting to see it.
Yeah.
For the Eagles, they're sure going to get, like you said, 6-3-1 and 1-3 in a row. That's awesome, and hopefully they just keep building on it. And again, that's all it takes. We say it every single podcast is that confidence.
Here's the problem, though.
Yes.
Just like the parent club, the Eagles are riding the struggle bus on special teams. So, well, maybe not the power play. The Avs power play is better than their penalty kill. But let me give you these figures. They're definitely having a bit of a hard time under assistant coach Tim Branham.
Yeah.
24th out of 31 teams on the power play, 16.7% conversion rate. 26 out of 31 teams on the PK, 77.8%. And they allowed 3 goals on 7 chances against Tucson this past weekend, and they still managed to get those games. Like, that's the thing. When you have the gumption to win games in spite of your special teams, like, just imagine what this team could do with their special teams. That is the only thing holding them back from being a Calder Cup contender, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree. And special teams are one of those things, like, on a day-to-day or a game-to-game basis, maybe they go 0 for 4 on the power play, or they let in a couple penalty kill goals, and, maybe you're not losing all those games, maybe you're not winning all those games, and that's okay. But, in the long run, like, a lot of coaches will tell you, like, special teams, you need to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
It drives your success, especially in the postseason. Like, in the playoffs, you may only get 1 or 2, power play opportunities. You can score on one of those. Like, it's literally, it's called the man advantage. Right. Like, you should be, scoring, you would think, close to 100% of the time. Or, like, I mean, that's a little unrealistic. But
right. But I get what you're saying.
Exactly. Like, the point is you really, really need to take advantage of those, 2 minutes that you have, or hopefully less, because you're scoring on. But you need to take advantage of that time that you have up a man or, down a man, unfortunately. Like, you got to really grind. And I think, honestly, penalty kill is a little bit more important than power play success is. Like, if you're scoring goals, then, the power play is not super, super important. The Avalanche, or the Eagles and the Avalanche have not struggled to score goals this season.
No.
But it's really the penalty kill. Like, defensively, we're seeing the Avalanche and the Eagles, kind of letting in 4 or 5 goals more often than they probably should be doing. And, it's because the penalty kill really has not been clicking on all cylinders. That's the biggest, area of concern, I think, for the Avalanche this season, and the Eagles as well. And the Eagles have a new coach and Tim Branham from the Grizzlies, and I love that guy. But it's going to take it's a learning curve. It might take a season to learn where he's at with things. And Brett Clark came in last season and did great, but due to the whole COVID thing, and we won't get into that. We all know the story, but. Yeah, unfortunately, he was great for him, and they learned right away. And the guy's got NHL, success. Like, he's, as a player, he's worked for the Avalanche for quite some time, and I think he was able to coach them up a little bit quicker. Tim Branham, like, he's a young guy. He's been coaching the ECHL. There's gonna be a just inherent learning curve that you need to learn and get a hold of that. But I think give it some time, I guess. It's still very, very early in the Eagles season, the AHL and the NHL season. They got time to figure these things out, but I think that it's something that you shouldn't worry about. Like, don't cry over it, but at the same time, like, come playoff time, you really need to lock in that man advantage and that penalty kill, and more importantly, penalty kill, and hopefully it's firing on all cylinders, and that translates to success more often than not.
Another thing, Scott, I noticed in the Iowa series to end 2021, the Eagles were icing.
Yeah.
They were icing 3 ECHL defensemen in their starting 6.
Yeah.
You had Dastow, you had Martin, you had Luka Burzan. Not Luka Burzan, he's a forward.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another guy. Who's the guy from Notre Dame that made his debut?
Oh yeah, he's not on the team anymore.
Clermont.
Oh, I know he is.
Clermont.
Okay.
Yes.
I was thinking
So
Cal Burke is Notre Dame too, right?
Yes,
I think he was.
exactly.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So you've got Clermont, Martin, and Dastow. Those were three guys in that first Iowa game that were starting for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Now you have Andreas England back. Now you have Roland McCune back.
And your big bodies back.
And now you have
Your
Dennis Gilbert
veterans.
back.
Yes.
Dennis Gilbert blocked like 3 shots in a row, and he was hurting during that Tucson series. Like he
That's
is such a defensive asset, and it is so great to see. And they had all 3 of those guys back. They had all 3 of those guys back, and the defense stepped up against Tucson. I know Tucson's not like a juggernaut in the Pacific Division in the AHL, but I mean, those are the games that you have to win. You know what I mean? Against that lower half.
Yeah.
So Colorado currently 5th out of 9 teams in the Pacific Division. Again, the top 7 teams makes the playoffs.
Right in the middle then.
Right in the middle then. Yeah. .550 points percentage. And 14-11-3-2. Again, they're on a 3-game winning streak. They've got Milwaukee coming for a 2-game set this weekend at the Budweiser Event Center, little Central Division action. And then the next weekend after that, they've got Iowa coming here again. So the next 2 opponents they have, a little preview of what the Eagles could be facing or will be facing in the Central Division next year. Rumor has it, because you don't want 9 teams in the Pacific and 7 teams in the Central.
Thing, but
no, and honestly, I did the math a couple years ago. Like DIA is the 3rd busiest airport in the world. Mm-hmm. They could really fly to the Midwest and just do that Midwest thing.
Right.
And they're already hosting Central Division opponents. They could. I mean, it's more than likely going to happen next season.
No, it definitely makes sense. But yeah, just previewing, what's coming next. That's 2 teams that, Milwaukee's not doing great this year. Iowa's okay.
Milwaukee is trending in the right direction.
They are, and so are the Eagles, though. But
so are the Eagles.
These are the games that you need to, these sub 500 teams. And you're confident right now. You're riding a 3-game win streak. You're playing great the past 10, 12 games, and it's time to take advantage of that.
But I'm looking at your power play stats. Milwaukee is 4th in the league in power play percentage. So, Iowa is 6th.
Yeah.
Your penalty kill has got to step up.
So going back to what we were just talking about, the specialty teams, this is the time. Like if I'm Greg Cronin, I'm working on that every day in practice. Where we're going, who they're playing, let's focus on that PK unit and
time to build
get it
chemistry.
Back to where it needs to go, because he's a great PK coach. Greg Cronin is. And, it hasn't been super great this year, again, for the Eagles or the Avalanche. And, they lost some good penalty killers, both those teams. And, hopefully they find their right guys, and I think they will. Now's the time to really work on that, because, again, top 5, top 6 teams in the power play, they're going to crush you if you take some penalties. And,
absolutely.
We got young guys, young ECHL guys in the lineup, and, they're apt to take penalties often. So, hopefully we'll reduce that amount. But yeah, big matchups.
Durf Zuki had a couple comments.
Okay.
Best of luck and speedy recovery to Byron, of course. He said, is it more of a system issue or a player issue on the PK in your opinion, or a bit of both? I think a system issue, and also kind of like I'd say like a chemistry issue. Like, because you guys are up and down and everything like that. Avalanche have had a lot more injuries, so
it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not systems. We got the same coaching staff for the last 3+ years for both teams.
Right.
And they all preach the same thing. And again, Cronin's he's always had great PK success. A lot of that was helped by Logan O'Connor. The first couple of years he was at the Eagles, and he's an incredible penalty killer. And same thing with the Avalanche. They lost a good one in Ryan Graves, and we could go into that. But
we could. Right.
We won't. But yeah, I think it's not a systems issue. I think their systems, they're a defensively strong team, as they are offensively strong. But it's just that turnover. And with the taxi squads both seasons now, guys getting injured, guys going to COVID protocol, it's hard to find that balance. Guys are going in these practices. When you join this team, here's the playbook. This is how we play. Let's get good at it. And it's a lot of chemistry thing. So I think it's a personnel issue, and both teams have lost some good guys, just to free agency over the past couple seasons. But I think, again, once they find that balance, let's hope COVID calms down a little bit, and we're getting less guys, out of the lineup. And hopefully they'll find that balance, and they'll improve.
Let's pivot to collegiate news, shall we? So DU hosted. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's on our end. Don't worry, Suzuki. So we were going to the collegiate portion of it, and then the internet just decided to drop out, just take a dump on us. So news: Denver, the Pios host fourth-ranked St. Cloud State on January 14th and 15th. They were supposed to play Omaha this past weekend, but COVID protocols for the Mavericks there postponed that series back on January 4th, bumped it out to the weekend of February 4th and 5th. So, again, Denver this past weekend sitting pat, 12-5-1 overall with a 5-3-0 conference record. They are 8-0-1 at home. They are third out of, I want to say, 8 teams in the NCHC. Yeah. So Denver sitting pat, but definitely in a good place. And like we highlighted episode, they've got probably 3 of the top, I want to say 10 or 12 scores in the nation. I believe.
Yeah, no, it was something like that. Yeah, I think we talked about it last week, but yeah, they're scoring in droves.
Yep.
It's been looking good for Denver. We kind of chalked it as a loss this season. Didn't think they were going to be playing super well. They lost a lot of good talent. But DU's, they're starting to score a lot of goals, and again, it's top something in the entire nation. I think they've scored the most goals in the NCHC conference, which is great. But yeah, tough matchups coming up with St. Cloud State, who ranks number 2.
Number
in the
2
NCHC right now, yeah. I think.
Oh, the second in the rankings. Okay, but they're ranked 3rd in the NCAA. So.
Okay, yeah. Second in NCHC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're. This is last season. Never mind.
Oh goodness.
I'm looking at last season.
That's the thing.
We're having multiple issues here.
That's the problem, guys. Is when you search for NCHC rankings,
they really need to figure that out.
They really do.
It's tough. Like even their NCHC website is like they do not regularly update their stats or anything like that. You got to rely on a handful of just kind of like third-party websites to find out how they're doing.
So St. Cloud is 5th in the NCHC rankings, but they're 3rd in the national rankings. So that's the thing, is when you have an overall record that's better than your conference record, like that can happen. And NCAA hockey is a lot different because of that.
Yes. Well, okay, so either way, St. Cloud's having a pretty decent season. So they're 6-3 now that I got the right stats.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, they definitely don't rank. So Denver's 3rd, they're 5th, and not scoring nearly as many goals as as Denver is. So
correct.
Still, no matter what, it's an NCHC, it's a conference game. It's all conference games from here on out until the quarterfinals, and big wins, just like Central Division games for the Avalanche and divisional games for the Eagles. Like
Exactly.
All big wins.
Those are important. Let's talk about another NCHC team. Good news out of Colorado Springs. The Tigers swept Miami of Ohio. 5-1 victory on Friday. Whoa, Friday. That was combining Friday and Saturday. Friday. 5-1 victory on Friday. 4-3 victory on Saturday. Let me detail it a little bit for you. 4 goals second period on Friday. Tigers score 4 goals, and they have a hat trick from forward Tyler Coffey. So Tyler Coffey getting the hat trick, 5-1 victory. He also had a goal and an assist against Arizona State the last game that the Tigers played on December 18th. So Coffey kind of heating up right now.
Riding the streak.
Yeah, he's riding the streak for sure. Ray Christie, another forward, he had 2 goals, including the game winner on Saturday. Again, they swept the weekend. That's a 3-game winning streak. The one against Arizona State, 2 of those games against Miami of Ohio. That's got to make head coach Chris Mayotte happy. And a big test coming up this weekend, though. Number 3, Western Michigan, hosting them at Ed Robson Arena there on the Colorado College campus on Friday and Saturday. That's going to be huge. Colorado College currently 6th out of 8 teams in the NCHC standings. They're 3-6-1 NCHC. 6-11-3 overall. So not the biggest threat, but be careful. They're on a hot streak. They could be on upset alert. Or at least Western Michigan could be on upset alert.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just on the note of Colorado College and DU, we got a big matchup coming up against those 2 guys. What do they call the Gold Pan? Is that
the Gold Pan?
I don't know if that's
the
they play
gold,
each other multiple times,
yep,
so I don't know if that's the Gold Pan game. So yeah, it's coming up, and Colorado College is heating up a little bit, and DU's heating up, and things are trending in the right direction for both those teams. So it should be, it's always interesting. I love those CCDU games. They're always always a good time to do a couple in my day, and looking forward to those ones next weekend as well.
Again, something that we're both going to have to do is go down to Ed Robson Arena, secure a press credential. I know it's going to be a hot ticket, so we might have to scrap for it. But yeah, for both of us to go down to Ed Robson Arena there in Colorado Springs, check out the new digs, and see one of those Gold Pen games, if not at least a home game. I think it'd be neat for us as a podcast to go cover it and to live tweet the game. I think that'd be super neat.
Do a pod there as well?
Do a pod? Why not? Why not? Down in the Springs. Go down to what? Fargo's Pizza? I believe is what it's called. Fargo's Pizza.
Yeah. I don't spend too much time in the area. You have.
I lived for 7 years in the Springs, so I know at least there was an old train depot. I think it was called Giuseppe's. It closed, unfortunately. Now it's just a catering outfit. But Giuseppe's was my favorite when I was a kid. Really? But now it's Fargo's Pizza.
So it's like a local, Colorado College, the kids are going there?
I'm not sure. I know I was a kid. I was 10.
Okay, well, yeah.
a young kid,
so
not a college kid.
Not a
yeah,
college
exactly. So,
right.
Well, let's finish up the college stuff. We're going to talk about Air Force. They were dormant this week, but they are facing off against Niagara at home this weekend in a 2-game set. They are currently 9th out of 10 teams in the Atlantic Hockey League Conference, 3-7-2 in conference play, 5-11-2 overall, unfortunately. So Willie Rhyme and Sam Brennan lead the team in 9 points. Rhyme's got 4 goals and 5 assists. Brennan's got 2 goals and 7 assists. So, not a whole lot to report back to you on the Air Force Falcons, but it's kind of been par for the course.
It almost never is, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, when you're a cadet and when you're, in the academy, that's your main focus, not sports.
Exactly. Your focus is elsewhere. And
right.
We appreciate what those guys are doing, but yeah, it's hockey's kind of on the back burner on that.
And it's like the Air Force Falcons leading the NCAA in rushing for 2 years going. It's because they, how do you recruit a quarterback when you're a service academy?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Army runs the option play. Air Force run the option. Navy. I mean, I think Navy, obviously Roger Staubach back in the 60s. He's probably the
Cowboys.
best. Go. That's right. You're a Cowboys.
I'm a Cowboys
fan. That's
fan.
right.
Sorry, everyone.
You've got family down there. That's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe Kellen Moore's going to be coming to Denver.
What I hear.
I'd say Boise.
And Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator too.
Yeah.
Also interviewed for the job.
Right.
Anyway.
Sorry. Well, now we're talking football.
Yeah.
Welcome to Front
We're
Range
recording
Football.
this.
Yeah, here we are just talking, shooting the breeze.
Chatting.
Yep. But Scott, this is our first first asking the feed in person.
Live
I'm super excited about it. So
likewise.
let's get started, man.
A couple good ones.
Couple good ones. Let me pull up your profile because you're the one who asked the question.
Yeah.
So let me pull this up here.
We got a couple today.
Got a couple for sure. We'll start with Fred J. So Fred says, "That's awesome. This is going to be a great show. Cheers." So we cheers you, Fred. Cheers each other. And take a drink. There we go. So Fred said, "Yeah, that's awesome. This is going to be a great show. Cheers. What can the Avs do to limit their turnovers? And why do they always seem to scramble and panic every time there's a funny bounce or a broken play, which seems to give everyone too much space in the D zone for a grade A?" And then he bumps down to the next tweet, "Scoring chance, ... ran out of real estate."
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer.
Before you do, I'm going to let you take that. But since I have the bladder of an infant, I need to go use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Right. I guess I'm taking over. It's you and me.
Take it over.
Here we go. Yeah, no, that's a tough question to answer. I don't know if there's exactly one answer to it. Like, I'm not in the head of these guys, and I have noticed that as well, though. How scrambly these guys kind of get, and it is what it is. And I think a lot of times, especially earlier in the season, they've looked pretty discombobulated, the Avalanche have, and I think they've gotten to the point where they're calmed down quite a bit. They're starting to score more goals, but the turnover issue has been a thing. It started early in the season, and it's become more and more of an issue. I think again, it's not one of those things that I'm really sweating or not really worrying about because it's not really translating to bad success. Like, I mean, they're playing really, really well, right? They're still a top 2 team in their division and a top 5, top 6, 7 team in the NHL right now, and things are looking pretty good as far as that goes. So I don't really know if there's a way to answer that. I mean, I think I'd like to blame it on a personnel issue, but it's really not a personnel issue, and I think I've seen a lot of it on the specialty teams, and that's to me been the biggest issue for the Avalanche this season is their PK unit and their defensive unit. And I have noticed they've been a little scrambly, and a lot of defensive guys have been in and out of the lineup. And we got the Byram issue that we've talked about, and Curtis McDermott for some reason is on the back end, and it's kind of been a bit of a sore subject and a bit of a tough point for them. But really no answer for that. So I guess we'll that's where I'll leave that. We'll move on to the next question. So I'll go ahead and answer Gil Mainclang at Gil Mainclang. Always coming in with the best questions. Name your top 3 musicians/bands and name your favorite album from each. So we're waiting for Cece. I'll go ahead and answer that one too. So my answer is going to be kind of all over the place. I'll kind of pick 3 different eras, I guess. So my first concert growing up was Prince. I learned that from my mom. Shout out Diane McDonald for that passion I got. But she was a big 80s 80s fan, and she kind of bestowed her Prince fandom on me as well. So Purple Rain, I have it on vinyl. I probably know every single word to every single song on that. Listen to it, back and front. Seen the movie probably 5-10 times.
Oh, wow.
Big fan of that one. And I
was. So is this your first artist? I know we're going on to the next question from Gil.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
So, I guess I'm gonna pick. Like I was telling them, I mean, we're kind of all over the place. So I'm picking like an 80s. Like it's like 3 different eras, really. So I went through a Prince phase, a definite 80s phase, and I would say Prince, Purple Rain, that was a big one for me growing up.
Like Scott said, you can blame his mom for that.
Exactly, yes, Diane. And then I would say, in middle school, like elementary, middle school, I went through a Green Day phase, like kind of a punk rock. Like,
okay.
I mean, when early 2000s, when I was, like 10 years old, 11, 12, whatever, punk rock was kind of like all the rage in the late 90s and early 2000s. I was a big Green Day guy. Like I started a Green Day fan club at my middle school.
Wow.
That's a real thing. And I would say, I guess my favorite album from them was probably American Idiot. That was, the classic that came out in my childhood, and loved them. And my dad hated the curse words and all that, but it is what it is. And I would say recently, like I'm more into like rap and hip hop. So a big guy for me is Kendrick Lamar. Like I think he's the greatest rapper of my generation. He's no Tupac or Biggie, but he definitely has some elements of that. And big Kendrick guy. So Good Kid, Mad City was one that I know, I've listened to probably 1,000 times, front to back, in order. You got to listen to it in order. It's great. The transitions are fantastic between songs, and I know every single word to every single song on that too. So I would say those are my three in no particular order. But those are kind of just the three I came up with, like on the drive out here. That's a tough question. I was looking at them.
That's a very tough question.
Damn it! All right, I don't want to be put on the spot, so I had to think of something, and those are the three that immediately came to mind. So that's my answer.
Derp Snooki says 90s the best.
Yes.
90s the best.
Yes.
I don't know, the 80s. 80s was a pretty good era for music, though. I mean, that was pretty solid. So, all right. Well, I guess it's my turn now. I'm gonna just go with the low-hanging fruit because I just came back from their concert in Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm gonna go with Genesis. And it's really tough because, as you know, Scott, and I think everybody who's a big music fan knows, you go through phases and you go through waves.
Exactly.
And so it's like, for me to pick a Genesis album that is the best album, it changes and it fluctuates. I went through a phase where I listened to, their 1986 album, Invisible Touch, where you had, a lot of the hits. It was their biggest album, biggest commercial success. Tonight, Land of Confusion, Invisible Touch. It was the quintessential pop Genesis album. But then you go a little further back, and I never really got into the Peter Gabriel age, Genesis back in the 70s. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate a good prog rock album. We'll get to that. Just wait. But I would say, right now, I'm really enjoying the album Duke that came out in 1980. I think my favorite, though, is, their self-titled album, which came out, it wasn't their self-titled debut. Because you hear bands, they have their self-titled debuts. Genesis waited until 1983. They started playing together in 1969. So they waited until 1983 to release their self-titled album, Genesis. And I really enjoy it because they kind of embrace a lot of their prog rock stuff, but they also embrace kind of more of their pop sensibilities in that too. So Genesis, 1983. Big fan of the rock band Rush. My dad got me into them when I was in high school.
Rush is great.
Moving Pictures, the one with Tom Sawyer and Limelight and all those good songs that you hear on the radio and classic rock radio. But Signals, I want to say, kind of their 1982 album right after Moving Pictures, they started pushing more towards synthesizers, and I'm kind of a sucker for synthesizers.
Okay.
So their 1985 album, not Moving Pictures, because that was their 81 album. What am I? Power Windows. Power Windows, yeah. You know Power Windows, right? Exactly.
Before my time, but yeah.
Right, but so Power Windows in 1985, that's a great album. A lot of people are kind of, it's like, oh, synthesizers, I want more of the guitars and bass and everything. But I'm a sucker for 80s music. I'm a sucker for synthesizers and prog rock, and done well, nothing better. So third, it's difficult because I went through a Dave Matthews Band phase. I still am. Dave Matthews Band is great in my opinion. U2, I went through a big U2 phase. I own pretty well all of their albums. But it's just, I'm going to go with something recent. I'm going to go with something in this, well, I guess you could say last decade, the 2010s.
Okay.
But Future Islands. I got turned on to them, local station here in Denver.
Never heard of them.
Indie 102.3, Future Islands, The Far Field. The Far Field. They came out
on Spotify right now
in 2016. The Far Field. So that's been one of my favorites in the past couple of years. Little over The Far Field, Future Islands. It's one of my favorite modern albums. The singer is super unique. His vocal stylings are so different. I love it, and it's just it is a kind of, there's no guitarist. It's all keyboards, bass, and drums, and then the singer. So it's a trip. It is such a trip. But
I'm gonna check it out. I'm getting into the indie. That's a big thing for me recently. I don't know if I know or I've identified an indie artist that I like, the most. But I think I am enjoying that music. I know I said I was kind of into a hip hop phase, but that was maybe more of college. I was into that, and now especially the past couple years since I've been out, that's probably the genre these days for at least the 20 to 35, 40 region. Even my dad is getting into it. My dad's in his 50s, but my dad listens to a lot of indie music, and so I was like, okay, well, if everyone's into it, let me give it a shot. And it's kind of out there at times, but I think I do like the indie music
quite
a bit.
it's different. Like some of the songs on Indie 102.3, I'm like, I could really care
What
less
is
for
this?
this.
Yeah.
I could really, just leave that one. But the fact is that, like when I moved here to Denver back in September of 2019, like, I have a good appreciation for indie music.
Yeah.
I think one of my first concerts in college was Death Cab for Cutie back in 2005.
Okay. Love Death Cab.
Yes, Death Cab is good stuff. And so, like, I have a good appreciation for indie music, but I just never dove head first into it.
Yeah.
Moving here, having a coworker in my day job that listened to 102.3, Indie 102.3 here in Denver, and like we listen to that at work every day, and really diving into it. Phoebe Bridgers, Sharon
Yes.
Van Etten.
That's actually Phoebe is one of the ones that I've gotten into.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Phoebe's solid.
She's
So
great.
yeah, like diving headfirst into that and really getting to know, Black Pumas. I don't know if you ever
Yes.
got Black
Big
Pumas.
Black Pumas.
Yes.
Colors on repeat all the time.
All my favorite colors.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Should we start a music podcast?
Should we?
Yes.
Maybe we should
I'm
just.
thinking we should.
Maybe we should just record music together, like just sing
Well,
without any
yeah.
instrument. Maybe not.
I
Maybe
can't
not.
sing, but I would record you. I would watch it.
Oh sure. Okay. Well, that's it. I mean,
Anyway,
we didn't have whole much for asking the
Covered it.
feed tonight, but
Yeah.
but we got it all covered. So I guess this is the end. We're at the hour point. This is kind of what the sweet spot of where
Yeah.
we're at. So yeah, thanks for tuning in to Front Range Hockey. Don't forget to follow our show on pretty well any major podcast platform: Google, Apple, Stitcher, etc. Spotify. You can rate us on any of those platforms, I believe. Give our Twitter account a follow, as you see our handle scrolling below at Front Range Hockey. That's actually at Front RNG Hockey. Had to abbreviate
Too many
RNG.
characters, yeah.
Yes, too many characters on the handle. But hey, Scott, where can people find your work?
I don't really write much these days. You guys that are, routine followers or subscribers to us, you guys know, that situation. But I am getting back into it. And I do still have access to the ColoradoHockeyNow.com website. I have talked to Data about getting back into it and writing. I want to get back to the point where I'm writing once a week.
Nice.
And
Okay.
I think I'll get there eventually. I have some opinions on the Avalanche, as I've had for the last couple of years. I took a step back recently, but we're getting back into it. I want to do 4 times a month, once a guest column kind of thing. So follow me on Twitter at offscottfree, at 0ffscottfree. I'll let you know if I'm posting something on Colorado Hockey Now. Read it there. It'll be free. I'll make sure it's not behind a paywall by any means, because I'm a guest poster. So you can find my work there. I tweet every once in a while also on that handle I just told you. And hopefully I'll be getting back into it. It was a nice couple months off, and I think I miss it. I realized, and I think you used to, if you love it, let it go kind of thing.
Yeah.
I had to step back for a little bit to realize that I am passionate about this. I really do miss it, and I want to get back to writing regularly. And my day job and my personal life and social life kind of got in the way there, and girlfriends and things like that.
Kind of got in the way.
Exactly, yeah.
You might want to choose your words a little more
Turn it
carefully.
off, yeah.
No.
I didn't mean that, babe. Anyway, but so yeah, I was kind of focusing on those things and focusing on myself for a little bit. We're getting back to the point where I'm ready to start writing again, and we'll start with once a week and maybe twice a week, and maybe you'll see me full time in the back half of the season.
I love it.
And into the playoffs. But
Yeah.
Follow me.
Scott's a good writer. You should follow him on Twitter if you aren't already. I mean, most of the time, his pieces are good. They're very informative. He used to play the game, so he knows it from that level. But hey, my name is CC Hockley, and you can find my written work at Full Press Hockey. That's fullpresshockey.com. Pretty straightforward. You can check out this podcast and a ton of other great programs at fullpresscoverage.com on the Full Press Radio Network, which we are a part of. Thankful for them to host our podcast and boost it out there to the masses. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it about me. But we do want to give a special thanks to DJ Sky Sonics for our theme music and transitions. Again, we kind of called it off because it's our first time doing it here at Station 26. We weren't quite sure how it was going to work out, so we just decided to bail on it. So apologize for that, Sky Sonics. But she was understanding, and we will say go follow her on Twitter at her handle at DJ Sky Sonics, and it's SONIX at the end there. So DJ SKY SONIX. If you'd like for her to make great music for you, for maybe a podcast that you host, check out Chromasonic Studios at chromasonicstudios.com. So, that is episode 31. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Wow, we got through it. We did it. Scott and I
Hopefully this
didn't.
audio's good.
Hopefully it is. I
We'll
mean,
listen back and
yeah.
see if we'll maybe invest in some better audio equipment. I don't know. But
Hey, I mean, Dirk Suzuki seems to have heard us. He says, thanks for entertaining us. Enjoy the rest of the evening. About time you guys do a beer night, LOL. Cheers from Nova Scotia with the beer clink.
cheers to you.
Yeah, cheers to you, Dirk. We appreciate your support.
Perfect time. Just finished my beer. too.
Perfect
So that's
timing.
a lot,
Yes, yeah. I've already had one, and then Scott came here and got me 2 more. I'm like, oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's okay. Oh, forgot to take this off. So thanks for tuning in to Front Range Hockey. We appreciate you guys. We will see you episode 32 next Wednesday. Until then, take care.
Adios.
Oh, Sky Sonic said, yo, thanks for the shouts. Good listens. Woo!